Well, Steve Rogers, a member of the Donald Trump Campaign Advisory Board, is with us now. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. So let's talk real quickly here about this situation with Mueller. The president has given some different opinions, it seems, on this. At one point, he said he has absolutely nothing to hide. I want to fast forward to his tweet in the last several hours where he said Mexico has for many years, he said the problem is no matter what the radical left Democrats get, no matter what we give them, it will never be enough. Just watch, they will harass and complain and resist, the theme of their movement. So maybe we should just take our victory and say, no, we've got a country to run. Is he planning some formal action to keep this report from release?
Well, you know, I've heard the critics overnight, and I would hope that they have learned a lesson over there jumping the gun on the collusion issues. I believe what the president is saying when he uses the reference no is that say no to the harassment, say no to the hindering of his ability to move forward with the country. Let's start governing. So as your reporter said earlier, look, no one knows exactly what he meant, but I sense from the people that I work with that he actually is saying, hey, look, it's time to say no to all of the diversions and let's move on. I believe that he wants the report out. He said he has nothing to hide, and we're going to see that report with some redactions within the framework of the law.
Okay, I want to move on here to immigration, if I could, please, because we have President Trump saying, of course, that he's going to shut down the border as early as next week if Mexico doesn't stop the crossings that are going on. We just heard from the representative there, Sean Casten, saying that idea is dumb, it's tragic, and it's racist. What is your reaction to that?
Well, if that individual, and I heard that individual say those words, spoke to the angel moms down there, the people whose relatives have been killed. And look, we're not saying all immigrants crossing that border are bad people. There are a lot of good people, and there are some legitimate reasons why they're crossing the border. But the influx, as you reported earlier, is so overwhelming now that law enforcement resources, not by the hundreds, but by the thousands, are being diverted in order to protect that border. So when you talk to the people who live down there, and the president has consistently talked about the safety of the officers and the assets down there, he has to do something. So it's not dumb. It's something I know he doesn't want to do. No one wants to see this done. But in order to protect our country, to protect the people down there and law enforcement officers down there, he has to take some pretty tough action. And this is what he's going to do, if he has to do it.
Well, and he's also making the argument that economically it makes sense, saying besides we lose so much money with them, meaning Mexico, especially when you add in drug trafficking, et cetera. This was in his tweet. He said that the border closing would be a good thing. Now, Christopher Wilson, who is the deputy director of the Wilson Center's Mexico Institute, spoke with Newsweek and said it would actually be an economic disaster. Millions of Americans would be immediately and directly affected by this, saying shutting this down from one day to the next would force many factories across the United States to stop their assembly lines within days, to cause produce to rot, and generally throw the economies of both the United States and Mexico into turmoil. On what criteria is the president making that argument that it's economically sound?
Well, to begin with, I think that's an overreaction from that individual who's making such statements. I don't see thousands of people out of work and factories closing down. What the president has consistently said, and I have to agree with this, the economic impact is just kind of on the opposite. The millions being spent on law enforcement across this country with regard to the ICE operations in each of our cities where there are a lot of illegal immigrants. The courts are backed up. As you know, the surge is causing tremendous economic problems on this side of the border here in the United States. Maybe it's going to hurt Mexico a little bit, but I don't think we're going to have a severe impact there. So I think the president is measuring what we are suffering now economically as compared to what may happen if that border is closed, and I don't think it'll be too severe.
All right, we've run out of time, I'm sorry to say. Steve Rogers, thanks for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me.